This is Ag Matters PM from the Iowa Agribusiness Radio Network, brought to you by the Iowa Soybean Association, your source for the latest Iowa ag news headlines right here in the heart of the heartland. With reports from our award-winning team of Dustin Hoffman, Riley Smith, Mark Magnuson, and Andy Peterson. Now, from the IARN studios in Des Moines, here's Dustin.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to Ag Matters PM from the Iowa Agribusiness Radio Network. I'm Dustin Hoffman. Today is Wednesday, March the 19th, 2025. We're so glad you could join us here today. Coming up a little later on in the program, we're going to talk with Jason Meyer of agmarket.net to find out what happened in those closing markets today. But first, we're going to finish up our conversation with Jim Sutter, the CEO of the U.S. Soybean Export Council. Now, when we talked to Commodity Classic, it was the day before President Trump was going to implement tariffs on Mexico, Canada, and China. Now, we know what's happened since then, but the thing is, we're talking today about what kind of impact tariffs could have on the soybean industry and why Sutter is talking about why we need to proceed with caution in dealing with these kind of situations.
Now, shifting gears, I know it's something we're going to have to talk about, but we're talking about this day before the deadline on tariffs with Canada and Mexico. Obviously, two of our biggest trading partners. What's the situation from the soybean perspective?
You know, I guess what I would say is we don't know what's going to happen exactly. Mm-hmm. We read the same news reports that other people do. What is frustrating, perhaps, is the uncertainty, because I think it makes our long-term customers of U.S. soy down in Mexico, it makes them a little uneasy. Right. And so if you're running a big livestock production business in Mexico and you want to lock in your supplies of soybean meal, or you can either go to a crusher in Mexico or import soybean meal, but if there's this threat of a tariff, and if you say, well, my alternative is to import it via vessel from South America, and the prices are not that much different, I prefer U.S. because that's what I know, and that's how I normally do it, but wow, it might have a 25% tariff? I better buy the South American. Now, I don't say that that's happening for sure, but I think it's in
something
the back
of
it's something to consider. And I just would say, I think the uncertainty is a challenge. Now, I understand the new administration who's come in with a mandate to get stuff done and do things. They've got to create situations. They got to have some leverage to be able to get things done. And so I understand that. I just hope that we can get clarification on how this is going to be working sooner rather than later. And you mentioned Mexico, Canada. The other big one is China. Yep. We had that great Phase 1 agreement signed on Jan 15, 2020. For anybody that'll listen, I've been encouraging, we got to pull that out and look at it again, rather than go through another trade rule. Because there was a lot of good stuff in that. President Trump in his first term and President Xi both thought it was a great deal. So hopefully we can go back to that and use it again.
All right. Anything else that our Iowa farmers need to know about what's going on with exports?
I would say one more thing, because Iowa farmers, they have a soft spot in my heart from the time I lived and worked in Iowa, and I know they're some of the best farmers around. The sustainability, the conservation practices that Iowa farmers practice on their farms that helps us to be able to market the sustainability of U.S. soy around the world is great. And I know people get tired of the word sustainability, and some people are frustrated by it, but I tell you, it really makes a difference. People around the world care about that. They want to know that the food that they're buying in whatever country isn't, the way that that's being produced isn't harming the environment. And Iowa farmers, thank you for helping to produce it so well so we can make these claims internationally that help us to be a preferred product in international markets.
All right, well, Jim, we thank you so much for the update again, as usual.
Thank you, Dustin.
That again was Jim Sutter, CEO of the U.S. Soybean Export Council. We're going to take a short break and hear from our sponsor, the Iowa Soybean Association and the Soy Checkoff. When we come back, we look at the closing markets. This is Ag Matters PM.
Iowa Soybean Association is driven to deliver for Iowa's 40,000 soybean farmers. We're proud to provide objective agronomic research, a helping hand with soil and water stewardship, and timely industry news powered by the Soybean Checkoff. Learn more at iasoybeans.com.
It's time now for the Ag Matters PM Closing Market Summary, your source for market analysis and settlement prices from the day's trade in Chicago, courtesy of the folks at agmarket.net.
We're back on Ag Matters PM here on the Iowa Agribusiness Radio Network, and time to go through the closing markets. And we're being joined right now by Jason Meyer of agmarket.net. And Jason, what did we see happen in those grains today?
The markets were pretty quiet. We had old crop corn was up a little bit, just kind of on the idea that we've seen some good export demand here as of late, and new crop was off fractionally, just the idea that we're going to see some bigger acres on this March 31st planting intentions report. Then the bean market is just a little bit soft here today. We're seeing the soy meal market a little bit lower, and then all the exports are starting to come out of Brazil as their harvest pace continues to pick up.
So as we look back on, we obviously had the WASDER last week. I mean, what kind of things are we seeing coming out of Brazil right now? Has it been as good as what we've been anticipating, or is there any news there that kind of gives us any pause?
Kind of some of the stuff that I've been reading where harvest has been ongoing, yields are maybe not coming in as good as anticipated, but those were some of the areas that saw some of the drier weather earlier in their growing year.
All right, now moving our way over to the livestock side of things, cattle and hogs. I know cattle had a decent day yesterday, hogs not so good. What did we see come out of those markets today?
Yep, the cattle market continues its trajectory toward the upside. Some of the deferred months made new contract highs today. The cash trade maybe a little bit higher, cutout values a little bit higher. Then on the hog side, the markets are a little bit off today. We kind of hit some technical resistance yesterday, and that kind of carried the trend lower today.
All right, so then looking at, I know this Friday we have a cattle on feed report. We've got the planting intentions report at the end of the month. Two reports that are going to kind of guide things through. First of all, let's talk cattle on feed. What kind of things do you maybe expect to see out of that?
So the cattle on feed, we're just kind of looking at some early numbers on feed at like 98.2%, placements at 85.6%, and marketing at 91.8%. So the placements seem like they're a little bit light, but you got to remember January 24, we had some heavy snow storms that impacted the markets. And then last year, February had an extra day as well. So that's kind of construed some of the numbers that are coming out early anyway.
And then maybe looking ahead at that quarterly grain stocks report, I mean, are there anything in your guys' crystal ball already that you're kind of thinking about seeing?
So what we're kind of looking for is the corn acres to maybe be even more than what the outlook forum said. Bean acres maybe to be a little bit lower. So that's kind of a known fact. And I'm going to be really interested to see what the quarterly stock says. January, we saw the corn exports at an all-time record for the month of January. And I think we've seen some pretty good demand here in February and March so far. Really, when you look for, if you're a buyer of corn in the world, the U.S. is basically your only grocery store as of now until we get the second Brazilian corn crop. So if we could see the Indian stocks on corn drop a little bit more than anticipated, and maybe on beans, I think we've seen some unexpected bean sales. So that should help potentially the old crop bean market out as well.
All right. Well, Jason, lots for us to think about. If folks want to talk about their market strategies, look at some options they have, or maybe even finish their market plans for 25, what's the best way for them to get in touch with you?
Give me a call. Check us out at eggmarket.net. You'll find my contact information there, or give one of my teammates a call, and we'd be more than happy to speak.
All right. Jason Meyer's been our guest here today on Ag Matters PM. Jason, thanks so much for the insight. We'll talk to you again real soon.
Sounds good. Have a good one, Dustin.
That again was Jason Meyer of agmarket.net. Let's go ahead and take a look at the closing numbers. You can find them yourself at the market screen at iowaagnet.com. At the close, May corn up 3 1/4 at 4.62 even. Soybeans down 4 1/2 at 10.08 1/4. Soy meal down $2.20 at 297.70. Soy oil 18 cents lower at 42.36. Chicago wheat down 1 1/2 at 5.63 1/2. Kansas wheat down 11 1/2 at 5.94 3/4. Minneapolis spring wheat down 2 1/4 at 6.11 3/4. Oats up 5 1/2 at 3.71 1/2. On the Merc live cattle up $1.45 at 206.82. Feeders up $2.17 at 286.72. Lean hogs down $2.02 at 85.57. Pork cutouts down 12 cents at 97.10. And Class 3 milk 13 cents higher at 17.09. That is the end of our closing market recap, and that brings us to the end of today's show. You can find all our content online at iowaagnet.com, as well as follow us on Facebook, X, and on our YouTube channel. While you're there, subscribe and hit the bell icon so you can be notified each time we put out a new video project. Also, don't forget about the free market podcasts that are coming 3 times a day right to your mobile device, openings, middays, and closings, free of charge. You can find out more at iowaagnet.com. Also, a new Pods of Potential is coming out today. We'll be coming out with that later on, and you can look for that at iowaagnet.com as well. From the IRN studios in Des Moines, I'm Dustin Huffman. For Andy Peterson, Riley Smith, and Mark Magnuson, we thank you for watching. This has been Ag Matters PM.